Welcome back to another episode of State of the State. I am your host, Morgan C. Mullings, and I'm so excited for my guest we have today. It is Assemblymember Khaleel M. Anderson. You may know him as the youngest Black Assembly member in the body's history. But today we're going to talk with him not about elections this year or campaigning, but about what he's accomplished so far and what he wants to do throughout this next year. So, Khalil, I'm so excited to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Morgan. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on the program.
Yeah, so I just want to start off by asking you, this is your first year in office. And so I want to get people acquainted with what you've been able to do so far and what you're proud of accomplishing so far in your first year.
Yeah, thank you so much, Morgan. Um, my name is Khaleel Anderson. I'm a member of the legislature, and I'm blessed to represent the 31st District. And I ran for office during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what I wanted and set out to get accomplished was to make sure that our district understands how important it is to build a new fight together. We are a district that is politically, geographically, and socially isolated. And so I set out to accomplish uh, things that would bring the district together, bring folks together, but fight to make sure that we are at the forefront of the discussions that are impacting our families. Food insecurity, housing insecurity, lack of green space and environmental racism that plagues our neighborhoods, police accountability. These are the things that we set out to accomplish. And I'm very, very proud that in the first year and today's 3 months, first year and 3 months in office as a legislator, we've been able to fight to bring back millions of dollars to the district, to fund many of the initiatives that I find really, really key, critical, and important to the lifeblood of our communities. I think the thing that I'm most proud of is my work on the issue of gun violence. We've seen gun violence impact communities of color all across this city. And I'm proud that we were able to bring thousands of dollars back to the district to help support programs. But aside from that, we declared gun violence a public health issue here in the state of New York. And that's so key, critical, and important to many, many families who in this moment are feel unsafe. We don't run to police as the end all be all solution to the issues that are very much at the root of it poverty, at the root of it resource fights, at the root of it many, many other things, including mental health. So while we want to work with everyone that wants to see the same goals as we do in keeping our community safe, I think my role as a member of the legislature is to work on the social aspect and the root cause aspect.
In Queens, people may not always associate it with violence. I mean, people like to look at other boroughs when they talk about difficulties with violence and crime, but the neighborhoods that you cover deal with that as well. And on top of that, they've been through so much in terms of weather, natural disaster issues, and dealing with high cases of COVID-19 as well. I mean, you kind of jumped into this storm of issues that are completely unprecedented, even for the most experienced assembly members. How have you been able to handle that?
So, you know what, Morgan, I want to say this. These are issues, the issues that we're seeing now during the COVID-19 pandemic are issues that I had worked on as an advocate, as a community activist, and they have just been exacerbated. Sometimes folks don't understand that, when white America gets a cold, it's a cold. But when Black America gets a cold, it really becomes the flu. And so we have had the flu for a very long time. And so now all COVID-19 did was exacerbate that flu. We were already sick. We were already suffering from environmental racism, already suffering from food insecurity, already suffering from housing insecurity as the eviction moratorium expires at the end of this week. These are things that we have been faced with in the 31st Assembly District, in Southeast Queens, and across the city, state, and nation. And so how I've been able to deal with it uh, first moving as an activist, community organizer, and community leader, now into the legislature, is look at the things that we've been talking about before, and that's addressing the root cause of all of the issues that our communities are facing in this moment. We want to give a hand up. And that's the model that my office has, is we're giving folk a hand up. We're enlightening folk. We're empowering folk so that they can stand up and push back against the powers that be on the issues that matter to them the most, Morgan.
Right. And so something that you said in our earlier conversations that you're focusing on is food insecurity and specifically food apartheid. I mean, that really intrigued me because I know that people see apartheid as a very strong word, but that doesn't change the fact that we're dealing with a crisis of being able to access food, especially during the pandemic when people are losing their jobs. So, what does that term mean, food apartheid, and how is your office addressing that in your district?
Absolutely. So, Morgan, it's no secret that Black communities, Brown communities, immigrant communities, Indigenous communities all across this state have food systems that are racially segregated. Food systems in which folk who have more money, more resources, and are lighter in fare have better access to better quality food versus folks who don't have those same circumstances. And to me, food apartheid means that divide, that segregation in resources and access to food. And we have research to back this up. This is what our office is looking into. And as we work to tackle the issue, that a percentage of conflicts that we see happen in our communities, instances of violence, are tied to lack of access to food. Believe it or not, it's a real thing. And so when I think about food apartheid and when I'm working to tackle food apartheid, I think about this as an issue, the issue of our time, an issue that is very much far reaching, can impact economic development, can impact schools and our education, can impact quality of food and how we hold grocers accountable, which we have legislation that we're working on to do such, hold grocers accountable for lack of quality food that we see in our neighborhoods. I want to work to see how we can address the grocery store to bodega ratio. In parts of my district, it is as high as 18-1, where you'll see 18 bodegas and corner stores before you see a grocery store. And then when you go into that grocery store, Morgan, you have expired produce. Before I became a member of the Assembly, this was an issue that I tackled in our neighborhood, and I was able to help build a full acre urban farm in our community. I'm in the process of closing the deal on funding a greenhouse so that we can grow food year round, a massive greenhouse so we can grow food year round in the district, and so much more.
Yeah, we've definitely been seeing a lot more of these urban farms, popping up in Brooklyn and in Queens. So I'll definitely keep an eye on that, and I definitely want to know more about that legislation as it rolls out. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. And before we close out, I do want to just, turn it back to you. We talked earlier about how, we're kind of from the same generation that has, jumped out into the world, into adult life during. Uh, so many historic times. It's almost like we're tired of going through historic moments at this point.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that you started your campaign at a young age, and now your political life is part of you growing up. And so, as someone who's technically what they call Gen Z, I guess you're maybe a zillennial, whatever they call it.
I'll
Why
take
is
it.
it important for you to be so involved at such a young age and take on this much responsibility? And I say young, relative to a lot of other people who are politicians right
No, look, Morgan, I'll take young. Youngest African American,
now.
youngest currently serving in the chamber. I'll take it. And the reason why is because, one, we need to make sure that young people have a voice in the legislature. A lot of times, adults are making decisions on behalf of folks that they've never had those conversations with, have not experienced the things that we've experienced. I just graduated college 2 years ago. Wow, can I say that now? Yeah, 2 years ago, 2022. um, and
Me too, me
and
too.
there we go, and graduated high school 7 years ago. So I'm not too far removed from the struggles that many of our young people face. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You are supposed to be in these rooms, in these spaces. You are no longer excluded. This is no longer an exclusive place for you. You have a seat at the table. Your voices matter, and the things that you feel, your experiences are here with me in Albany, are here with me throughout my time as a legislator. And that's so important.
I'm definitely glad that you brought that up. We definitely are out of time, but I'm so glad we were able to cram so much in, and that our readers were able to get to know you better. And I hope that you will come back on the show for 3 questions in 3 minutes, because you are running for reelection, and we want to be able to have all of the candidates on to share their stories during reelection. So I really hope to be able to talk to you more soon.
Thank you so much, Morgan, and thank you to the State of the State. Appreciate the work that you guys do. Let's continue to get the information out for the people and continue to build a new fight together.
Absolutely, Khalil. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in to State of the State. We'll see you next time.